I step into the elevator, my eyes glued to my phone screen as I scroll through work emails. The familiar ding of the doors closing barely registers in my mind. It's been another long day at the marketing firm, and all I want is to get home to my small apartment and maybe order some takeout. I'm so absorbed in a particularly annoying client email that I don't even look up to see which floor button is already lit. The elevator starts moving, and I finally glance up from my phone. That's when I notice him. He's standing in the corner, impeccably dressed in what looks like a custom-tailored navy suit. Dark hair perfectly styled, strong jawline, and the kind of presence that fills a room even when he's trying to blend into the background. There's something about the way he carries himself that screams success, but his eyes hold a loneliness that I recognize all too well. Our eyes meet for just a moment, and I feel my cheeks flush. I quickly look away, focusing on the floor numbers as they climb. 32, 33, 34. Wait. My stomach drops as I realize what's happening. Excuse me, I stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. I think I got on the wrong elevator. He turns to look at me fully now, and I notice how his eyes soften when he speaks. Which floor were you trying to reach? Ground floor, I admit, feeling incredibly stupid. I work on the 15th floor, and I guess I just got on autopilot and I trail off, gesturing helplessly at the ascending numbers. A small smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. Well, you're definitely going in the wrong direction. This elevator goes to the penthouse. Of course it does. Of course I've somehow managed to get on the private elevator of what is clearly a very wealthy, very attractive man. If this story resonates with you, drop a heart in the comments below. I'm so sorry, I say, pressing myself against the wall as if I could somehow make myself smaller. I'll just get off at the next floor and find my way back down. Don't worry about it, he says, and his voice is warm, reassuring. Happens more often than you'd think. I'm Marcus, by the way. Dylan, I reply, finally meeting his eyes again. There's something magnetic about his gaze, something that makes my pulse quicken in a way I'm not entirely prepared for. The elevator continues its smooth ascent, and I find myself stealing glances at Marcus when I think he's not looking. He's probably in his early 30s, with the kind of confidence that comes from success, but there's also something vulnerable about him that I can't quite put my finger on. So you work in the building? Marcus asks, clearly trying to make conversation. Yeah, Henderson Marketing on 15. Nothing too exciting. I shift my weight from one foot to the other, still feeling awkward about the whole situation. What about you? Besides living in the penthouse, I mean. He chuckles, and the sound sends a warm feeling through my chest. I own the building, actually. Among other things. My eyes widen. Oh, wow. I'm really sorry for barging into your private elevator. I honestly had no idea. Dylan, relax, Marcus says, and I love the way my name sounds in his voice. You're not in trouble. If anything, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me in weeks. There's something in the way he says it that makes me look at him more carefully. Despite his obvious wealth and success, there's a loneliness in his expression that mirrors something I feel deep in my own chest. We're both quiet for a moment, and I become acutely aware of how small the elevator suddenly feels with both of us in it. Lonely at the top? I ask, surprising myself with my boldness. Marcus's expression shifts slightly, becoming more guarded. Something like that. The elevator dings as we reach the penthouse level, and the doors slide open to reveal a stunning foyer with marble floors and contemporary art on the walls. Marcus steps toward the exit but then pauses, turning back to me. Would you like to come in for a drink? He asks. I mean, you're already here, and I promise I'm not a serial killer or anything. I should say no. I should politely decline, take the elevator back down to where I belong, and pretend this whole encounter never happened. But there's something about Marcus that draws me in, something beyond just his obvious attractiveness. Maybe it's the loneliness I recognize in his eyes, or maybe it's the way he's looking at me like I'm something precious and unexpected. I don't usually accept drinks from strangers, I say, but I'm already stepping out of the elevator. Good policy, Marcus replies with another one of those smiles that makes my stomach flip. But I did tell you my name, so technically we're not strangers anymore. His penthouse is exactly what you'd expect from someone who owns the entire building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a breathtaking view of the city skyline, and the modern furniture looks like it belongs in an architecture magazine. But despite its obvious expense, there's something sterile about it, something that lacks warmth. This is incredible, I say, walking toward the windows. The sun is setting, casting golden light across the room and making the city below look like something out of a dream. Thanks, Marcus says, but there's no real pride in his voice. Can I get you something to drink? I have pretty much everything. Just water would be great, actually. I'm already nervous enough without adding alcohol to the mix. As Marcus moves to the kitchen area, I continue exploring the space with my eyes. Everything is perfect, immaculate, but it feels more like a showroom than a home. There are no personal photos, no books lying around, nothing that gives any real insight into who Marcus is beyond his obvious wealth. He returns with 2 glasses of water, and we stand by the windows watching the city lights begin to twinkle in the growing darkness. The silence between us isn't uncomfortable exactly, but it's charged with something I can't quite name. So what do you do at Henderson Marketing? Marcus asks, and I'm grateful for the return to safer conversational territory. Mostly social media campaigns for small businesses. Nothing glamorous, but I like helping people tell their stories. I take a sip of water, very aware of how close Marcus is standing to me. What about you? Besides real estate, various investments, some tech companies, a few restaurants. He shrugs like it's no big deal, but I can tell there's more to it than that. Nothing as meaningful as helping people tell their stories. There's something self-deprecating in his tone that surprises me. I'm sure what you do is important too. Is it, though? Marcus turns to look at me directly, and I'm struck again by the intensity of his gaze. Sometimes I feel like I'm just moving money around, making rich people richer. Not exactly changing the world. I want to say something profound, something that will ease whatever burden he's carrying, but I'm not sure I'm qualified to give life advice to a millionaire. Instead, I find myself being honest in a way that surprises even me. I think we all question whether what we're doing matters, I say quietly. I spend half my time wondering if social media posts about local coffee shops are really making a difference in anyone's life. But they are, Marcus says with surprising conviction. Those coffee shops employ people, create community spaces, give people reasons to connect with each other. That matters. The way he says it makes me look at him differently. There's a thoughtfulness there that I wouldn't have expected from someone in his position. We fall into silence again, but this time it feels more comfortable, like we're both processing something important. Can I ask you something? I say, turning to face him fully. Sure. Why did you invite me up here? Really? You don't know me, and this is clearly your private space. Marcus is quiet for a long moment, and I wonder if I've overstepped somehow. When he finally speaks, his voice is softer than before. Honestly? Because when you looked at me in the elevator, you didn't look at me like I was a bank account with legs. You looked at me like I was just a person. The vulnerability in his admission makes my chest tighten. I want to reach out and touch his arm, offer some kind of comfort, but I'm not sure if that would be welcome or appropriate. You are just a person, I say instead. A person who happens to have a really nice apartment and probably more money than I'll see in my lifetime, but still just a person. Marcus laughs, but it's not entirely happy. You'd be surprised how rare that perspective is in my world. That sounds lonely. It is. The simple honesty of his response hits me harder than I expected. I think about my own life, my small apartment, my routine job, my small circle of friends. It's not glamorous, but it's real, and I'm surrounded by people who care about me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I'm sorry, I say, and I mean it. Don't be. I made my choices. Marcus moves closer to the window, pressing his palm against the glass. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to just be normal, you know? To worry about things like rent and grocery bills instead of stock portfolios and board meetings. Trust me, worrying about rent isn't as romantic as it sounds, I say, trying to lighten the mood a little. That earns me a genuine smile. I suppose not. We stand there in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city below us. I'm acutely aware of Marcus's presence beside me, the way his cologne smells expensive but not overwhelming, the way his breathing is steady and calm. There's something happening between us, something I'm not entirely sure how to navigate. Dylan, Marcus says suddenly, and the way he says my name makes me turn to look at him. Yeah, thank you for staying. For talking with me. I know this probably isn't how you plan to spend your evening. Actually, this is much better than my original plan, which involved leftover Chinese food and Netflix, I admit. Marcus laughs, and the sound is warm and genuine. Well, I can't compete with leftover Chinese food, but I could order us some dinner if you'd like. I know a place that delivers. I should say no. I should thank him for the drink and the conversation and head home to my normal life. But there's something about Marcus that makes me want to stay, to learn more about the man behind the expensive suit and the lonely eyes. I'd like that, I hear myself saying. Marcus's smile is radiant. Great. What do you like? Italian? Thai? I know this amazing sushi place. Surprise me, I say, and I realize I mean it in more ways than one. While Marcus orders dinner, I continue exploring his penthouse with my eyes. Now that I'm staying longer, I allow myself to really look around. The art on the walls is beautiful but impersonal, the kind of pieces you'd expect to see in a high-end hotel. The furniture is all clean lines and neutral colors, expensive but somehow cold. Food should be here in about 30 minutes, Marcus says, rejoining me by the windows. This place is incredible, but it doesn't really feel like you, I say, then immediately worry that I've been too forward. But Marcus doesn't seem offended. If anything, he looks intrigued. What makes you say that? I don't know. It's perfect, but it doesn't tell me anything about who you are. There are no personal touches, no photos, no books. It's like a beautiful shell with no one living inside it. Marcus is quiet for a long moment, and I wonder if I've gone too far. When he finally speaks, his voice is thoughtful. You're not wrong. I had a decorator do everything. Told her I wanted something impressive but low maintenance. I guess I never really thought about making it feel like home. Where does feel like home to you? I ask. Marcus considers this, staring out at the city lights. I honestly don't know anymore. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, but I haven't been back there in years. This penthouse is just where I sleep. There's something so sad about that admission that I feel my heart clench. I think about my own small apartment with its mismatched furniture and overflowing bookshelves, the photos of friends and family covering every available surface. It's not much, but it's mine, and it tells the story of who I am. That's heartbreaking, I say softly. Marcus turns to look at me, and there's something vulnerable in his expression. Is it? I've been telling myself it's just practical. Maybe it's both. We're standing closer now, close enough that I can see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. There's something building between us, a tension that has nothing to do with the awkwardness of our initial meeting and everything to do with the growing connection I feel. Can I ask you something now? Marcus says. Of course. Are you seeing anyone? The question catches me off guard, and I feel my cheeks flush. No, I'm not. Are you? No. Marcus's voice is quiet, almost hesitant. I don't really date much. Hard to know if someone's interested in you or your bank account. That must make it difficult to trust people. It does. Marcus pauses, then adds, but I don't get that feeling from you. My heart starts beating faster. There's something in the way he's looking at me that makes me think this conversation is heading somewhere I hadn't expected when I stepped into that elevator. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment, I say, but there's no real protest in my voice. Maybe not, but I'm a pretty good judge of character. It served me well in business. Marcus steps slightly closer, and my instincts are telling me you're different. I want to ask him different from what, but the words get stuck in my throat. The space between us feels charged, electric, and I'm not sure what to do with the intensity of what I'm feeling. The sound of the doorbell breaks the moment, and Marcus steps back with what looks like reluctance. That'll be dinner, he says, his voice slightly rough. While Marcus deals with the delivery, I take a moment to collect myself. What is happening here? I came up here by accident, and now I'm having dinner with a millionaire who seems genuinely interested in me as a person. It feels too good to be true, like something out of a romance novel. But the way Marcus looked at me just now, the vulnerability in his voice when he talked about trust and loneliness, felt completely real. Whatever this is, it's not just my imagination. Marcus returns with bags of food from what I can tell is an expensive restaurant. The smell alone makes my mouth water. I got a variety of things since I wasn't sure what you'd like, he says, setting everything out on his dining table. Thai curry, pad thai, some spring rolls, and this amazing mango sticky rice for dessert. This smells incredible, I say, taking a seat across from him. And probably costs more than I usually spend on groceries in a month. Don't worry about that, Marcus says quickly. I invited you, so it's my treat. We eat in comfortable conversation, talking about everything from our favorite movies to our college experiences. I learned that Marcus studied business at Harvard, but originally wanted to be a teacher. He learns that I majored in communications, but spent most of college writing for the student newspaper. Why didn't you become a teacher? I ask as we're finishing the main course. Marcus's expression grows distant. My father convinced me it wasn't practical. Said I'd never make enough money to be respected. Do you regret listening to him? Sometimes. Marcus meets my eyes across the table. What about you? Do you ever think about going back to journalism? All the time, I admit. But it's a tough industry, and I've got bills to pay. The marketing job is stable, even if it's not my passion. What would you write about if you could write about anything? The question catches me off guard with its sincerity. Most people ask about my job as a polite formality, but Marcus seems genuinely interested in my answer. Human stories, I say without hesitation. The kind of stories that help people feel less alone in the world. Like the small business owner who started their company to honor a deceased parent, or the teacher who's changing lives in an underfunded school. The stories that remind us we're all more connected than we think. Marcus is quiet for a moment, and when he speaks, his voice is soft. That's beautiful, Dylan. And important. The way he says my name sends warmth spreading through my chest. There's something about the combination of his obvious intelligence and his genuine interest in what I have to say that's incredibly attractive. What about you? I ask. If you could do anything, money aside, what would it be? Marcus considers this seriously. I think I'd still want to teach. Maybe business or economics, but at a community college or somewhere that serves students who really need the education to change their lives. That's not too late, you know? You could still do that. Could I? Marcus looks skeptical. I'm not sure I remember how to do anything that isn't about making money. I think you're selling yourself short. You've been nothing but kind and thoughtful since I met you. Those are exactly the qualities that make a good teacher. Marcus smiles, but there's something sad about it. You have a lot of faith in someone you just met. Sometimes it's easier to see the good in someone when you're not carrying all their baggage. We finish dinner as the city lights twinkle below us, and I realize I don't want this evening to end. There's something magical about this unexpected connection, this conversation with someone who seems to understand the feeling of being disconnected from your true purpose. Would you like some wine? Marcus asks as we clear the table together. Just a little, I say, though I'm already feeling intoxicated by something that has nothing to do with alcohol. Marcus opens a bottle of red wine that probably costs more than my monthly salary, and we settle on his couch with our glasses. The leather is buttersoft, and the cushions seem designed to encourage intimate conversation. Can I tell you something? Marcus says, swirling the wine in his glass. Of course. I haven't had a conversation like this in years. Maybe ever. He looks at me with an intensity that makes my breath catch. Most people either want something from me or they're intimidated by what I have. But you're just here. Present. Yourself. Maybe that's because I got on the wrong elevator, I say, trying to lighten the moment even as my heart pounds. Maybe that was the right elevator after all. The way he says it, the way he's looking at me, makes something flutter in my chest. This is dangerous territory, I realize. I'm falling for someone whose life is so different from mine that we might as well be from different planets. But the wine and the city lights and the vulnerability in Marcus's eyes are making it hard to think clearly about consequences. Marcus, I say, not sure what I'm planning to say next. Yeah, this is probably crazy, but I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for a conversation like this. Marcus sets down his wine glass and turns to face me fully. It's not crazy. I feel it too. The space between us on the couch suddenly seems both too much and not nearly enough. I can see the gold flecks in his eyes more clearly now, can smell his cologne mixed with the scent of wine. I should probably go, I say, but I make no move to leave. Probably, Marcus agrees, but he doesn't look away. We sit there for a moment, the tension between us almost tangible. I'm acutely aware of every detail, the way the lamplight catches in his hair, the slight shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his breathing has gotten slightly shallower. Dylan, Marcus says quietly. Yeah, I know we just met, and I know this is probably not smart, but I can't stop thinking about kissing you. My heart stops, then starts beating double time. The honesty in his admission, the vulnerability of putting himself out there like that, is incredibly brave. That's probably not smart, I agree, my voice barely above a whisper. Probably not. But neither of us moves away. If anything, we seem to be gravitating toward each other, drawn by something stronger than logic or practicality. I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time, Marcus continues, his voice soft and honest. Maybe ever. Marcus. I start, but I'm not sure what I want to say. That I feel the same way? That this is moving too fast? That I'm scared of getting hurt? Instead of finishing the sentence, I lean forward slightly, closing some of the distance between us. Marcus's eyes search mine, looking for permission, for confirmation that this is what I want. It is what I want. Despite all the logical reasons why this is complicated, despite the fact that we've known each other for only a few hours, I want this more than I've wanted anything in a long time. Marcus reaches up and cups my face gently, his thumb brushing across my cheek. The touch is soft, reverent, like he can't quite believe I'm real. Are you sure? He asks. Instead of answering with words, I close the remaining distance between us and press my lips to his. The kiss is soft at first, tentative, like we're both afraid of breaking whatever spell has been cast over this evening. But then Marcus's hand slides into my hair, and I lean into him, and suddenly the kiss deepens into something hungry and desperate. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard. Marcus rests his forehead against mine, and I can feel the warmth of his breath on my lips. "Wow," he says softly. "Yeah, wow." We sit there for a moment, foreheads touching, trying to process what just happened. The kiss was everything I hoped it would be and more, but it's also opened up a whole new set of complications. "I should go," I say again, but this time there's real reluctance in my voice. "You should," Marcus agrees, but his hand is still in my hair, and he doesn't seem inclined to let me go. "This is complicated," I say. "Very complicated. We barely know each other." "True. And we're from completely different worlds." "Also true." Marcus pulls back slightly so he can look at me properly. "But Dylan." "Yeah, I don't care about any of that right now." The honesty in his voice, the way he's looking at me like I'm something precious and unexpected, makes my resolve crumble completely. I lean forward and kiss him again, and this time there's no hesitation from either of us. When we break apart this time, Marcus stands up and extends his hand to me. I know what he's asking, know what accepting his hand will mean, and for a moment I hesitate. But then I think about the loneliness I saw in his eyes when we first met, the way he talked about his sterile penthouse and his empty life, and I realize that maybe we both need this. Maybe sometimes the universe puts you on the wrong elevator specifically, so you'll end up exactly where you need to be. I take his hand. Marcus leads me through the penthouse to his bedroom, which is as immaculate and impersonal as the rest of the space. But right now, with his hand in mine and the memory of his kiss still tingling on my lips, none of that matters. What happens next is tender and passionate and completely unexpected. Marcus is gentle and attentive, treating me like I'm something precious rather than just a conquest. We take our time learning each other, exploring this connection that started with a wrong elevator and has somehow led us here. Afterward, we lie tangled together in his expensive sheets, and I trace patterns on his chest while he runs his fingers through my hair. The city lights filter through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting everything in a soft, dreamy glow. "I can't believe this happened," Marcus says quietly. "Having second thoughts?" I ask, though I'm not sure I want to hear the answer. "No. The opposite, actually." Marcus tilts my chin up so he can look at me. I'm trying to figure out how to make sure it happens again. The hope in his voice makes my chest tight with emotion. "Marcus, I know it's complicated. I know we have a lot to figure out. But Dylan, I haven't felt this alive in years. I want to tell him I feel the same way, want to promise that we'll figure out how to make this work despite all the obstacles. But I'm also scared, terrified of getting my heart broken by someone whose life is so different from mine that we might not be able to bridge the gap." "What are you thinking?" Marcus asks, clearly sensing my internal struggle. "I'm thinking that a few hours ago, I was just trying to get home from work, and now I'm lying in bed with someone who owns the building I work in. It's a lot to process." Marcus is quiet for a moment. "Are you regretting it?" "No," I say quickly, because that's the truth. I'm not regretting it. I'm just scared. Of what? Of getting hurt. Of this being just a novelty for you. Of falling for someone whose life is so different from mine that we can't make it work. Marcus shifts so he can look at me more directly. "Dylan, I can't promise that this will be easy. You're right that our lives are different. But I can promise you that this isn't a novelty for me. What I feel for you, what happened between us tonight, it's real." The sincerity in his voice makes me want to believe him, but there's still a voice in the back of my head warning me to be careful. "What happens now?" I ask. "I don't know," Marcus admits. "I've never been in this situation before. But I'd like to find out, if you're willing." I study his face in the dim light, looking for any sign that this is just a game to him. But all I see is the same vulnerability that first drew me to him, the same loneliness that I recognized because it mirrors my own. "I'm willing," I say finally. "But we need to take this slow. Figure out how to navigate the differences between our lives." Marcus smiles, and it's the first truly relaxed smile I've seen from him all evening. "I can do slow." "Can you?" Because from where I'm lying, it seems like we've already moved pretty fast. Marcus laughs, and the sound rumbles through his chest where my head is resting. "Fair point. But I meant slow going forward. Getting to know each other properly. Figuring out how to make this work." "I'd like that," I admit. We talk for a while longer, making tentative plans to see each other again, discussing the logistics of dating someone whose life is so public while mine is decidedly private. It's not going to be easy, But there's something about Marcus that makes me want to try. Eventually, exhaustion starts to take over, and I find myself drifting off to sleep in his arms. It's been an extraordinary day, one that started with a simple mistake and led to something I never could have imagined. I wake up the next morning to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment, I'm disoriented, unsure where I am. Then the events of the previous evening come flooding back, and I sit up in Marcus's enormous bed, looking around for him. "Good morning," Marcus says from the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He's wearing pajama pants and nothing else, and the sight of him in the morning light makes my stomach flutter all over again. "Good morning," I reply, suddenly self-conscious about my bedhead and the fact that I'm wearing one of his t-shirts. Marcus sits on the edge of the bed and hands me a cup of coffee. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months, actually." It's true. Despite being in an unfamiliar place, I slept deeply and peacefully. "Good. I was worried you might be uncomfortable." I take a sip of the coffee, which is perfectly prepared and probably costs more per pound than I make in a day. This is amazing coffee. It's from a small roaster in Colombia. I have it shipped in monthly. Of course he does. It's another reminder of just how different our lives are, but somehow this morning it doesn't feel as overwhelming as it did last night. "I should probably get going," I say reluctantly. "I need to shower and change before work." "Of course." Marcus pauses, then adds, "Would you like to have dinner tonight?" "Somewhere public this time, like a normal date." The fact that he wants to see me again, that he's thinking of this as the beginning of something rather than a one-time thing, makes warmth spread through my chest. "I'd like that," I say. "Great. I'll pick you up at 7. I give him my address, and we exchange phone numbers. It all feels very normal and domestic, which is strange considering the circumstances of how we met. Marcus calls his driver to take me home, which feels excessive but also incredibly thoughtful. As the elevator descends from the penthouse to the lobby, I can't help but smile at the irony. Yesterday, getting on the wrong elevator felt like the worst kind of mistake. Now it feels like the best thing that's ever happened to me. The driver is professional and discreet, and I spend the ride home staring out the window and trying to process everything that's happened. Part of me still can't believe it's real, that I've somehow connected with someone like Marcus in such a profound way.